Our postcard today is from a place that you have all heard of. It's a place of great beauty, but it was also a place of a great massacre. The postmark is Glencoe. Now, if you come to Glencoe, apart from the history and the general heritage of this area, you would probably want to walk, or you probably want to climb. You certainly wouldn't want to be brushing the outside of the Glencoe Inn, but you would come to this place because it is the centre meeting point for all of the, that's Kipper the dog, who wants that rotten old bit of stick thrown for him again. But you come to this place because it's the central meeting point for everybody who wants to sort of disperse and do their climbing and walking and generally being very, very fit around this area. But I thought I'd come here rather than do walking and climbing. I thought I'd come here to eat. Because there's some very good Highland hospitality here, sort of venison and haggis and things like that. Well, this is just the sort of thing you'd expect to find in an inn. And I'm now in the inn. And Guy, you're one of the partners here.
That's right, family business. We've been here about 14 years now.
And how long has there been actually a place like this in Glencoe?
History is a wee bit vague on this. We understand there's been an inn of sorts on this site for 200, possibly longer, years.
Now, the food was also something else, because I don't ski, I don't climb, I walk a bit, but normally around shops. So as I've come in here, what do you recommend that I eat that will be local?
We offer a variety of local dishes. Venison's still popular, particularly with the beef scares that are going around at the moment. Seafood, we're in the heart of the mountains here, but the sea is literally 2 miles down the road.
Is it really? Oh, I didn't know that.
That's what makes these mountains so high, in fact, is the fact that when you start climbing in Glencoe, you're starting from, in effect, sea level, rather than, say, 1,000 feet up from a plateau. So seafood, very popular. Venison, a popular dish. Unfortunately, these days, a lot of that's farmed rather than wild, but it's still available.
What about haggis?
Yes, we sell that. Again, it's one of those foods that people look for.
I think we've just conjured it up. I reckon, do you reckon that's for me?
Why not?
It will be for Mary the dog. Now that dog, I want everybody to know. Thanks for that, Guy. Yeah, it's haggis. Look, there's haggis here, everyone. And there's some venison stew. Is that a dumpling?
Yeah.
There's a big dumpling. And this is Mary, who only speaks a little bit of Welsh. Don't you, Cariad? You only speak Welsh? So we've got a Welsh dog, Cymraeg dog in the Highlands. I don't speak any Gaelic, but I think food for any Labrador is a must. All right, love. And then, so you've got a Welsh dog in the Highlands, and behind us, we've got a Highland dog in the Highlands. Okay, and Terrier, what's your name?
Kelty.
Kelty.
Kelty, say hello.
Say hello, Kelty. Yeah, oh, Kelty's very nice. I've got to tickle her tummy. Yes. My goodness, what's your name?
Alison.
Alison, do you stay here much?
We came here on our honeymoon 42 years ago.
And are you rehearsing for it? Is this your anniversary?
Rehearsing. We've had our Ruby wedding.
Have you?
We've just been to a Climbers Club reunion, 50th. My husband and our best man were members 50 years ago of a Climbers Club. So we've been staying up at the King's House Hotel.
And so you've just come down here for lunch?
Yes, yes.
And what's your husband's name?
Brian.
I'll ask him.
Brian.
Hello, Brian.
Hello, Jim.
How are you?
I'm
All right.
fine.
And how's it like then? How's it like? How's it like? What is this interview all about? What is this? What is it like 42 years later? Would you like to conduct this interview, Alison? 42 years later.
It's a long time, you know, actually.
See, a week was a long time in
That's
politics.
right, yes.
42 years is a long time in marriage.
It was the year of the Suez Crisis. I remember reading about it.
Well, there could be a crisis here. Look, they've been married 42 years, and she's over there, and he's over
There's
here.
very liable to be a crisis after this interview, I can
An old black boat.
Well, you see, in the old days, people used to be buried out in the burial island in the loch because we didn't like to bury people on the mainland. we have an old Gaelic superstition that people who are buried, they don't go to heaven for some time. The last person to be buried in any graveyard, they become the watcher, and their spirit watches over that graveyard until the next person is buried. And the trouble was, if there was too big an interval between one interment and the next, they were known to hurry matters along a wee bit. So they're better over the water where the spirits can't get you.
And that's why.
And that's why. This is the old funeral boat. There was 4 big sweeps, 2 on each side, and this would be taken out to the island. The funeral, of course, would depend on the state of the tides, and then we're buried out in the island.
So it's not used anymore?
No, the graveyard is actually full now, and we like to think we're Christians and don't believe in the Watcher anymore.
Ah, right.
But I certainly won't walk past the graveyard at night, but that's a personal point of view.
Yeah.
But the island out there has 3 ports on it, the ports of the dead. One for Argyllshire, one for Glencoe and one for Callart. And according to my grandmother, it was very bad luck if you were a Argyllshire man and you were buried off the Glencoe port. But I never understood once you're in a coffin how much more bad luck you could actually handle.
You're right.
You kind of used it up. But the interesting thing about the burial island was that it's a little group of islands, and the one nearest here in English is the island of discussion. And if there's any arguments or quarrels round here, the people were taken out in the boat and left on the island with whiskey, cheese and oat cakes until they came to a conclusion, when they signalled and were picked up and taken up to the chapel in the burial island where they ratified the agreement. And the net result of that was that in 1,500 years of recorded history, we've only had 1 murder in this area. And that was a chap called Colin Campbell. And then about 100 years after that, the lighthouse at Corn was built by the Stevenson brothers. And one of them had a son, Robert Louis Stevenson, who used to write stories. And he heard the story of this one murder that we had, and he turned it into a book called Kidnapped.
There's been a lot of people around here, though, haven't there, that have written things about Glencoe.
Well, about Glencoe, yes.
And a nursery school in particular?
Well, that's my one claim to fame in life. Down the Glen, there's a family called Fleming, and they had a son, Ian, who used to write spy stories. And he had his fictional spy attending primary school at Glencoe. So my claim to fame is that I was at school with James Bond. Although Lucy McCall said if James Bond had been in our class, she'd never have gone to the qualifying party with me. I don't believe that.
No, I thought you were leading me into a little croft.
Well, it was a croft house originally. It certainly was when I was a small boy. But this house was built in 1695, one of the first built just after the massacre. And it was used as a croft for up until about 1966. And then the local authority were going to knock it down to widen the road. And we felt this was a bit of official vandalism. So a group of us in the village, Barbara Fairweather was a prime mover, got together and actually got it founded as a museum.
Well, good old Barbara.
Well, that's 25 years now.
There's too many councils want to knock things down,
just
to broaden
rethink,
and
yeah.
widen things, aren't there?
Improvement, they call it.
Yeah,
You've got to keep something going.
We know different, don't we,
Yeah.
Arthur? Let's put the record straight about something else
Yes,
too,
certainly.
because so many people think that the Glencoe massacre was actually one clan having a go at another clan.
No. We'll go back into history a wee bit. On the throne of Britain was James VII, who was Roman Catholic, and he was usurped in a palace coup and fled to France. And his son-in-law, William of Orange, took over the throne, and a Protestant king was on the throne of Britain, which is what apparently everybody wanted, which was fair enough, except that was in 1688. And in 1691, William put out an edict that the Highland clans, the Highland chiefs, had to take an oath of allegiance to the new king, because in these days they were very, very powerful. And they had to take this oath of allegiance by the 1st of January 1692. Now, the old chief here was a Thronol Botach, an old man of 70, and he left it till last week to go up to Fort William to take the oath, just to be awkward.
And what clan was this one?
Clan MacDonald.
MacDonald.
He was part of the MacDonald clan. He arrived up with 3 days to spare to be told that he couldn't take the oath at a military court, because that was a fort, a military fort. He had to go down to Inverary and take it at a civil court. Now, from here to Inverary is about 70 miles, and I can do it in an hour in my GTI, but he was an old pony. And he got there 2 days late because of bad weather. You know, the weather had closed in. And the Sheriff Argyllshire, being a decent Scot, was away for New Year and didn't sober up until the 4th, or didn't come home till the 4th. And he accepted the oath, and he sent it off to Edinburgh and on to London with a covering letter, both from Colonel Hill at the fort explaining what had happened and himself. But King William, now there's various stories. We believe that King William was rather, shall we say, put out when they all took the oath. He wanted to make an example of somebody. And 2 factors come in. One was that this chap was late here, and the second was, if you've seen Glencoe as a natural trap, you know, it's surrounded in 3 sides by hills, the other side by water. So they decided to do something. And at the end of January 1692, there came a detachment of redcoats under a Major Duncanson, came from Fort William and were billeted in the glen, 2 or 3 in each house. And they stayed for 12 nights, billeted within the houses, which gave time for another 600 redcoats to come up from the south. And they surrounded the glen, and on the night of the 13th of February moved in, and at 5 in the morning the massacre took place. But it was not a clan thing.
So it was 720 redcoats, and how many clanspeople?
Well, about 400.
About 400.
About 300 were killed. We think about 100 escaped.